Were these the only doors, he wondered? He'd barely finished the thought when the sea-deck plate he'd passed on his way up on sprang, unbidden, to his mind. His body moved before he had time to think. He turned, ran back to the stairs. He had scarcely taken a step when, at the top, next to an ornate clock embedded in the wall, he saw a person. A girl. She looked to be the same age as Junpei. He froze, unable to look away from her face. He wasn't confounded by her beauty or something equally silly. No. There was another reason he couldn't take his eyes off the girl. He'd seen her before. He couldn't quite remember where, but he knew. He'd met her. The girl, too, stared at Junpei, similarly stunned. Her response suggested she'd seen him before as well. Without saying a word, he walked slowly toward her. She didn't move, almost as though she was held in place by some sort of spell. As Junpei stepped on her landing, the spell broke. No sooner had he set his foot down, the whole ship shook for a second. Ah! The quake caught the girl unprepared. She fell. Moving on instinct, he leapt to catch her. Or so he thought. Her face was far closer than it should have been, mere inches from his own. He was flat on his back. She had landed squarely on top of him. The girl seemed as confused as he did. Her face suggested she still hadn't fully recovered from seeing him. For a moment that seemed to stretch for a very long time, they stared at one another. The ship stopped shaking. Everything was quiet. Water could be heard from the bottom of the ship, lapping faintly at the walls and ceilings, but eventually that faded as well. The silence was complete. A thick, muffling blanket. At last, the girl opened her mouth.
Oh my gosh. Is that you, Jumpy?
Jumpy. Her words echoed through Junpei's head. Suddenly, his memory returned. Akane! Why hadn't he realized it before? The girl was Akane Kurashiki. She and Junpei had been friends in childhood. They'd gone to elementary school together, 6 years. What was she doing on the ship, though? Her soft eyes were only inches from his own. He could feel the warmth of her face. Feelings he'd thought long forgotten began to work their way to the surface. He could feel his face heating up. At that moment, the speaker crackled to life, and a cold, eerie voice filled the room.
Welcome aboard. I welcome you all from the bottom of my heart to this, my vessel.
With the voice's invasion, the spell between Junpei and Akane was broken. All hints of burgeoning romance forgotten. They'd untangled themselves from one another, struggled to their feet. Their 7 companions had heard the voice as well. Many of their faces had gone pale. They looked around frantically, desperate to locate the source of the voice. They'd found it. A speaker set in the ceiling.
I am Zero, the captain of this ship. I am also the person who invited you here.
The voice was harsh, obscured occasionally by the crackle of static. But Junpei recognized it. How could he have forgotten it? The same voice from the man in the gas mask.
Hey, asshole! What the hell is this? Come on out here. I want to get a good look at you.
What do you mean to do to us?
I mean to have you participate in a game. Some of you I know are familiar with this game. The Nonary game. A game where you will put your life on the line.
Nonary game? What the hell's that? The voice continued, implacable.
The rules of the Nonary game can be found upon your persons. They're simple rules. Read them.
Nonary game. Hey, there's something in my pocket. Check this out. Silver reached into his pocket, pulled out a slip of paper. The rest of them did similar. Junpei followed suit. Felt the telltale crumple of paper, slightly damp from his earlier ordeal. I got one too. It would seem Zero has seen fit to grace each of us with a letter. Would you mind terribly reading it to us, young man? His request had been delivered to Junpei, who, after a short moment of surprise, did as he'd asked. On this ship, you'll find a handful of doors emblazoned with numbers. We'll call them numbered doors. The doors in front of you are a pair of the same. The key to opening these numbered doors are the numbered bracelets that each of you possess. Should you total the numbers on your numbered bracelets and find the DR of that number is equal to the number of the door will open. Only those who have opened the door may pass through. There are, however, limits. 3 to 5 people can pass through one numbered door at a time. All those who enter must leave. All those who enter must contribute. Bracelet, Junpei figured, had to mean the big bulky thing on his arm. He glanced around. It looked like everyone else had one as well. I'd come to much the same conclusion. The purpose of the game is simple. Leave the ship alive. It's hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Junpei reached the end of the letter. There was a long moment of silence. Then the speaker cracked up the light once more.
There's one last thing I must tell you. As you've no doubt surmised, this ship has begun to sink. On April 14th, 1912, the famous ocean liner Titanic crashed into an iceberg. After remaining afloat for 2 hours 40 minutes, it sank beneath the waters of the North Atlantic. I will give you more time in simply 160 minutes. 9 hours. That is the time you will be given to make your escape.
The voice finished. The speaker went silent. The sound of a bell tolling echoed through the hall. It came from the dance hall adjacent to the stairwell. It took those assembled on the stairs moments to trace the sound to a clock embedded in the wall. The 9th bell faded away. 10th never came. 9 o'clock. Most likely in the evening. When Junpei appeared at the window of his cell, he'd seen nothing but blackness. Of course, it was night. If that was the case, they'd need to escape by 6 a.m. the following day.
Now it is time. Let our game begin. I wish you all the best of luck.
The speaker went silent, didn't speak again. Silver yelled at the speaker with language coarse enough to embarrass a sailor. The rest of Junpei's companions were silent. Junpei, too, was consumed by his thoughts. A great deal he didn't understand. Who is Zero? What was the nonary game? Why was he chosen to make them part of it? Was he a criminal who took delight in playing with his victims, or did he have some other purpose? And why had Junpei been chosen as part of this insane game? Why had any of them been chosen? But one question was foremost on his mind. Akane. They hadn't seen one another since elementary school. Why had she appeared now? Coincidence? No. Impossible. There had to be a reason. He didn't know what it might be, but there had to be a reason. Very well. The lion's voice seemed oddly loud in the silence. Standing around here won't do us any good. Best we get moving, don't you think? Getting moving? Are you planning to open the numbered doors? Hey, wait! Don't tell me you're actually going to go and do what this Zero says. No, that's not what I mean. The lion shook his head, mildly annoyed. I'm saying, let's find another way. After all, we haven't really examined this place yet. What? Their separate investigations finished, all 9 people returned to where they'd left one another. The result of their work? Nothing. Completely sealed in. Their hard work hadn't gone completely to waste. They had learned a number of things as they'd secured the parts of the ship they could reach. It seemed they were confined to decks A through C. C deck was as far down as they'd be able to go. The reason being, D deck was completely submerged. Strangely, the water had risen no higher than D deck. The flow seemed to have stopped somehow, as evidenced by the surface of the water on D deck, as smooth as glass. The prince knelt down, gently drew his hand across it. Perhaps this Zero fellow had used some sort of remote control to seal a water-type door somewhere lower down. He said our time limit was 9 hours, after all. In other words, this water won't rise for 9 more.
You're saying we won't
Sink till then. Well, that may be a little too optimistic. No point to wishful thinking. There are 3 middle doors on C deck. A single door stood off to the side, with 2 more on the wall facing toward the central staircase. None of them had numbers or verification devices. They were, however, locked. No matter how much they pushed and shoved, the doors refused to move. The Mountain and the Lion threw themselves against them a few times, to no avail. The door in the back had a keyhole. Above it, a strange mark in the shape of a circle surrounding a dot. 2 other doors on C deck as well, but it was clear they were elevators, as each had a button next to it, with an upside-down triangle. They tried pushing the button. No response. Apparently there was no power running to the elevators. To the left of them, a card reader. Also had a strange mark. A lowercase h with a dash drawn across the upper stem. Junpei stared for a bit.
This is the symbol of Saturn. An astrological symbol.
Then the mark on the other door.
I think that was the sun?
They'd seen the same symbols on A deck. A door on either side of the stairs. The one on the left, a keyhole with a similar symbol.
This is Earth. The horizontal line is the equator, the vertical, the prime meridian.
Junpei looked up at the ceiling. A great circle cut into it, perhaps for a skylight or a glass dome, but had been filled with a gargantuan middle plate. It looked solid. Anything short of an explosive charge would unlikely damage it. There were several windows along both sides of the ship, or at least, there had been. They too were covered with metal plates. In other words, we're trapped. All the exits go nowhere. Junpei wasn't happy. The girl with pink hair spoke up.
Well, I'm sure they go somewhere. You just can't open them.
Mountain.
You don't know that.
For all we know, they just open into walls or take us into circles. The prince didn't agree. No, I'm sure they go somewhere. Otherwise, what point would there be? And we can open them. Well, 2 of them at least. The numbered doors. The atmosphere in the room grew tense.
Hey, wait a minute. I think I said this earlier, but I don't think we should do that.
The dancer moved in front of the doors as if to block them.
We'd have to be crazy to open these doors. If we do that, we're doing exactly what Zero wants us to do.
Everyone spoke at once.
Agree.
I don't. That's a terrible idea. We should keep going.
We should stay here.
We don't have any other way to open any of these doors.
Maybe we should just wait. Someone's bound to come find us.
We don't have time for that!
In 8.5 hours, the ship is gonna sink.
The clamor of voices made it next to impossible to determine who was saying what. Their arguments grew more and more intense until people were shouting. Junpei had remained silent, but at last he could take no more.
Hey! Shut up!
They fell silent. All eyes turned to Junpei. He felt each stare burning into him, but he refused to flinch.
Before we try and decide where we're going to do,
There's something else we ought to do.
and that is?
Exchange information. We don't know anything about each other. I want to know who you guys are. Who you are, where you came from, why you ended up here. Don't tell me you aren't curious, too. They were silent. Some of them looked the other way, or bit their lip, crossed their arms, and stared at the ceiling. One of them spoke up. Akane.
I agree. Jumpy's right.
Jumpy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about him. I just call him Jumpy. His name is Junpei. We're childhood friends. We went to the same elementary school.
Wait, stop. Don't tell us stuff we didn't ask about you. Zero's probably watching us right now. What are you gonna do if he's listening in?
Would that be bad?
Hell yeah! We don't know how much that bastard knows about us. Maybe he just picked a bunch of random people to kidnap. If that is the case, it'd be dangerous for us to let him know too much. If Zero knows who we are, he could go after our families. Maybe he'd tell us, have him get us to do stuff.
We still need to know what our names are. It's gonna be hard to talk to each other if we don't have names.
Then code names. Tim apparently seemed like the obvious solution.
Code names?
We'll each pick something. It'll be 7.
7. Why are you 7?
Fair question. The mountain stuck out his left arm. This bracelet number says 7.
Ah, I get it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
He smirked.
Alright, I'll be Santa. Any you chumps know Japanese? No? San means 3, so I'm Santa. You know, like Santa Claus. Fits, don't you think?
Then your bracelet number...
Yep, gotta be a 3 on it. Good job, Grandpa.
Just like the mountain had done, Silver thrust down his left hand. Sure enough. 3. Very well then. I'll go next, shall I? My bracelet number is 1. Given that, I think Ace seems appropriate.
I'll be Lotus then. I'm sure you all know, it has 8 petals. Which means, of course, my bracelet number... 8. I would appreciate it if you would call me Snake. My bracelet number is 2. Since Ace has chosen cards, I chose dice. Snake eyes, clearly. It's particularly relevant, given that I'm blind.
Blind. He'd kept his eyes closed during the entire ordeal, which had suggested something strange, but to hear it said so casually. Something of a surprise. Everyone seemed a little nervous at the prince's proclamation, but no one seemed to know how to react. There was one person who didn't seem surprised at all. The girl with pink hair.
I want to be Clover. You know, like a 4-leaf clover. Good luck, right?
Looking almost bored, she held out her left hand. 4. Next up, Junpei. He held out his bracelet. Alright, my number's 5, so my code name is...
Why have one?
It's not like there's any point to it now. The dancer cut him off.
I mean, we all know your name. Junpei.
Oh. They all nodded. Akane stepped forward nervously.
Then you should all call me by my name, too. Because, I mean, it doesn't seem
fair to Jumpy.
You think it's not cool for you to hide your name after you told us his?
She fidgeted awkwardly. Junpei decided he had to do something. What's your bracelet number?
6.
She hesitated, held out her hand. Junpei looked at it for a moment and thought. Alright then, what about June? June. Yeah, 6th month of the year. So you're June.
Jumpy?
Akane kneaded her hands, looked up at Junpei uncertain. He smiled back at her reassuringly. You good with that? She thought about it, then seemed to come to a decision, gave him a nod. Their names decided, Junpei ran over to them quickly in his head. Ace. Snake. Santa. Clover. His own, Junpei. Which, by the way, if I remember correctly... No. It's not exactly 5. 5 in Japanese is go, if I remember correctly. Akane was 6. June. 7. Lotus. That meant 8 of them, including Junpei, have revealed their numbers. There was still one person left, though. The 9th man. He hadn't said anything since they'd met on the stairs. He didn't look like the sort of person inclined to conversation. His skin was pale, breathing heavy, soaked with nervous sweat. His behavior suspicious, maybe emotionally unstable. It was hard to tell. Whatever the case, it seemed clear he had only a fingertip's worth of a grip on his sanity. Clover walked up to him slowly. She put her hands on her hips, eyed him.
And what number are you?
He stayed silent. Bloodshot eyes twitched from person to person. Breath came in hot pants.
Hey, I'm talking to you.
He licked his dry lips with a shaking tongue, spoke with a voice like old paper.
Isn't it obvious? There are 9 people here. And you know who numbers 1 through 8. I'm the only one left. So you're 9. Yeah.
He extended a trembling arm. It said 9. Clover looked at it contemptuously.
What's your code name?
Code name?
What do you want us to call you? We all made up names. You should too.
I don't need one.
And why not?
Because I'm not gonna stay here. With you. He took a shuddering breath, exhaled. Clover looked at him with something like disgust.
You got some sort of plan?
I do.
What's that?
You sure you want to know?
Yeah?
Let me show you. I'm gonna do this! By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. The man's body moved like a snake's. In the blink of an eye, his hand slipped around her, wrapped his arm around her waist. What the hell do you think you're doing? Santa leapt forward. He was halfway there when... Stay back! The man's hand dove into his pocket. Came out with a knife. Pocket knife. Held it to Clover's pale, quivering neck. If you get any closer, I'll cut her open! Santa stopped. He snarled at the scrawny man with the knife, grated his teeth. That's right. The man's smile was neither friendly nor reassuring. Sweat poured down his neck, soaking the collar of his shirt. Clover, are you alright? Snake's voice sounded oddly concerned.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Her voice shook, making her words less convincing. What the hell are you trying to do? I told you. This is my plan.
What are you gonna do to her, you sick son of a bitch?
Don't worry. I'm not gonna do anything. If she just does what I tell her to, I'll let her go. He moved backward, keeping his grip on Clover. Keeping their distance, Junpei and the others followed. The man reached the wall, gave a start as his back touched it, and glanced around quickly as he spoke. Verify.
Huh?
The left. Look on your left. Do you see the device? Place your hand on the scanner.
And if I don't?
His nostrils flared. He looked like he was about to choke.
Are you an idiot? What do you think? I could slit your throat right now. I'll kill you if I have to. All I need is your bracelet.
Just do it. He pressed the knife against Clover's neck harder. She stretched her hand to the device. Her back was to it. She had to feel around for a moment before she found the panel. It made a cold noise. On the display above her hand, an asterisk. So that's how it works. By placing your palm on the scanner panel, the bracelet will be entered into the device.
Codex! Thanks for setting up shop in Synapse!
Enjoy your emotes, enjoy ad-free viewing, and, most importantly, welcome to the Nonary game. A game where we put our lives on the line and die. Hope you're doing well. The ninth man seemed to know a little more about the device's operation than he should have. How had he known what to do? Good, you're done. Next. His bloodshot eyes crept from person to person. They stopped on Ace. You, right? Thanks.
You're the one with the number 1 bracelet.
I am. So?
Then you're next. Verify your number like this little brat did. What are you doing? Do it! Don't you care what happens to her?
Alright, just calm down. Ace held his hands, palms out. Ninth man jerked his chin toward the device. Slowly, cautiously, Ace moved toward it. After what seemed like an agonizing eternity, he verified his hand on the scanner. A second asterisk. The device had Clover and Ace's numbers, 4 and 1. the same as the number written on the door, but it wouldn't open just yet. Needed one more person.
Get back.
His voice shook, but the knife held to Clover's throat made his words a command. Ace took 2, then 3 steps.
Farther! More than that! Go all the way back!
The ninth man's lips curled into a cruel, twisted smile. 4 plus 1 plus 9. Digital root of 5.
Thank God you were all so cooperative. Now I could get out of this nightmare.
He pressed his hand to the scanner panel. Pulled the lever. The door opened with a groan. He let go of Clover. Junpei leapt toward the ninth man, but he wasn't fast enough.
Wait!
The man shoved Clover right into him. Hopped into the door.
Have a good one, guys.
I'm going off ahead now. Bye. He raised his hand, waved, twisted smile on his face. Then he was gone. The door ground shut with a dull clang of metal on metal.
Clover, are you alright?
Snake ran to Clover's side as she lay on the floor.
Yeah, I'm fine.
She climbed to her feet, and once there, leaned down Snake's shoulder for support. Junpei ran to the door. The others followed him. Several pairs of hands grabbed hold, pulled. It refused to budge.
Shit!
That was when Lotus spoke, voice quiet.
Do you hear something?
Like
Beeping.
Junpei pressed his ear against the door. The others did the same.
You're right. I can hear it too.
What is that? They heard something else. The ninth man.
Shit! Why isn't it stopping? God damn it! You lied!
Lied.
This wasn't supposed to happen! This is wrong! This is wrong!
His voice shook with fear. Safe on the outside, they stopped back from the door, looked to one another. What's happening in there?
Open the door! Please! I'm begging you! Help me! Get me out of here!
Junpei grabbed hold of the device. He slammed his hand on the scanner panel. Nothing. Why didn't it register? He looked at the display where the asterisks had shown. It said engaged.
Oh my god, there's no time left! Listen, I was lied to! He lied to me! He put me in here! It was him! He killed me! It was him! Ah! Ah!
An explosion rocked the room. Instinctively, they ducked. They stood up when they realized there was no danger. No one spoke. Silence filled the room. In that silence, the tone that echoed across the room sounded as loud as a gunshot. Eyes turned toward it. It'd come from the device mounted next to the door. It changed from engaged to vacant. Let's see if we can open it. Seven swallowed hard. Junpei nodded, placed his hand on the panel. Blood warning, by the way. Red asterisk appeared on the panel.
Oh! Ow! Thanks!
The device had registered Junpei's bracelet number, 5. Wasn't enough, though. 2 more people were needed. Junpei asked. Ace, Lotus, you think you could give me a hand? The pun was a little too on the nose, but the mood was still grim. Both Ace and Lotus lifted their hands. Checking it was working, channel points to Squiffy. Oh, that's fair, that's fair. With the conditions fulfilled, they pulled the lever. You guys ready? Junpei nodded to them. They stiffened, nodded back. Junpei set his mouth in a grin line and pulled the lever. A metallic groan. The doors slid open. A breath of air drifted, carrying a stench that made them gag. Junpei grimaced, put a hand over his mouth. Oh my god. Good gravy. Lotus and Ace shuddered. 7 grunted. That's pretty bad. Even Santa's voice shook. He blew up. It appeared Santa was right. The hallway on the other side of the door was splattered with chunks of torn flesh and dark red blood. The shriek echoed across the room. June. Her strength left her, and she dropped. As Junpei turned to catch her, the door ground shut. She crumpled to the floor. June, are you okay? Junpei dropped to his knees, put an arm around her shoulder. That was when he noticed. Her body was feverish. She was radiating intense heat. What the hell? Where'd this fever come from? June couldn't answer. Her face looked like wax. Her body shook. Let's just rest for a minute, okay? You think you can walk? She nodded weakly. Junpei lifted June to her feet, guided her into a chair. Here we go. As gently as he could, he set her down. How are you feeling? Are you alright? She nodded, and as she did, a single tear rolled down her face. Why? Why did this happen? Her voice cracked, broken by misery and grief and choked sobs. Why did this happen? Do any of you know what the fuck is going on here? Who's Zero? What's this nonary game? Come on! Anybody! Anything? What the hell is going on? What are we doing here? Ace, Snig, Santa, Clover, 7, Lotus. All were silent. 7 pairs of downcast eyes and grim lines. June's body shook with silent sobs. They slowed as the minutes ticked by, and eventually, they stopped. Cutting through the cold, heavy silence, a bell. 10 rings. It was hard to believe it, but an hour had passed. It's 10 o'clock then. Fuck! I've had enough of this crap! Santa leapt to his feet, fists clenched. How long are we gonna pussyfoot around like this? We've only got 8 hours until the time limit Zero was going on about is up. Let's get going already. Go! Go! His outburst fell on deaf ears. No one agreed. They stared back at him, their eyes blank, faces tired. Lotus was the next to speak. I refuse.
I'm not gonna end up like him. Him? What, the ninth man? Of course. Who else?
In his mind's eye, Junpei saw the corpse again. The dark reddish-black pool of blood, scattered pieces of flesh. Organs strewn across the floor like the blossoming of a grotesque flower. The explosion must have been powerful. His neck twisted at an odd angle. Likely had thrown him against the wall. Half of his face crushed, the other half bloodied. Most of his abdomen had been emptied by explosion or gravity. He had landed on his back, stark white ribs jutted up like the legs of some sort of macabre crab. Junpei felt something flip in his stomach. I think he just screwed up. He probably set off some sort of trap that killed him. I'm not gonna screw up like that. I'm getting out of here alive. Whatever Snake was laughing at, Santa didn't find amusing.
What's so goddamn funny?
Oh, my apologies. You were just so very confident. I couldn't help myself.
What the fuck?
I think you've mistaken the situation. Huh? The ninth man's death. It had nothing to do with the trap. Or at least, not the sort of trap you might imagine it did. Then, he broke one of Zero's rules, and was punished. Quite simple if you think about it. You still don't? Alright. How about you take a moment and think back to what Zero said? Specifically, what he said about the number of people. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through the numbered door, right? And after that, you've forgotten the relevant part. Santa furrowed his brow in thought. Zero said... All those who entered must leave. All those who enter must contribute.
Hello there, Danielto. Welcome to Blood Warning the Game.
Whatever it was, I think it means groups of less than 3 or more than 5 can't go through. Correct. A gold star for you, Junpei. The ninth man, however, broke that rule. He tried to pass through a numbered door by himself. That's why he was executed. Zero's watching us from somewhere, making sure we don't break any rules. I'm not so sure about that.
And why not?
This execution system is automatic. Didn't you notice? There's no need for him to monitor us.
What do you mean?
Snake looked at Seven with what could only be described as pity. Very well. I see it must be me who tells you. I've waited long enough, I suppose. I'd hoped Zero might spare me the trouble, but that seems increasingly unlikely. You couldn't see them, of course, but perhaps Snake sensed the confusion. When Ace spoke, he gave words to everyone else's thoughts. You know something? I know a great deal, many things, but yes.
What do you know?
Here. Snake removed a card. With a flourish, he showed it to Ace, who took a closer look and spoke.
Come now, what's the point of giving me this?
Give me that. Santa snatched it off, but his expression of disgust turned to confusion pretty quickly. What the hell is this? Seven next.
I see.
The card went to Lotus, to June, to Junpei. Braille. The written language of the blind. The card was covered in bumps. Junpei could recognize it. He couldn't read it, though. Yeah, I can't read this. Junpei handed the card back to Snake, who nodded with a small smirk. Okay, that was fun. What's so important about a Braille card? I found it in my pocket. I can only assume it's a message from Zero.
Zero. A message?
What does it say? Everyone was crowding around Snake, desperate to hear his words. Santa looked as if he were to grab hold of Snake and shake him. The neighbor's rooster woke me up in the middle of... Ow! Ouch! Sorry, dude. That's a rough awakening. Calm down now. No need to panic. You don't need to force me. I'll read it.
Bracelet number 2. Since you're not blessed with sight, I shall bless you, and only you, with information. I'll tell you of the function of the red, the dead, and the bracelet. The red is the recognition device. It will verify your number. Besides every numbered door, you'll find a red. The dead is the deactivation device. It does what that says. Once you've passed through the numbered door, use the dead to stop the detonator. But perhaps you're wondering, what does this detonator detonate? This may be something of a surprise, but I've placed a bomb inside all of you. People. You swallowed it while you are unconscious. I've no doubt, by the time you read this note, the bomb will have passed your stomach, found its way to your intestine. You'll be unable to puke it up. Don't try. As I mentioned, the bracelet on your left hand contains a detonator. A timer for the bomb in your body. There's one condition to cause it to detonate. Entering a numbered door. Once you've done so, the timer will activate, no matter who you may be. You'll have 81 seconds. If, after that time, the detonator hasn't been deactivated, it'll signal the bomb and explode. To deactivate the detonator, every person who verified at a red must verify at a dead. Once all numbers have been verified, pull the lever and the countdown will cease.
Rooster, then dog, wanting to go out, then 5 minutes later, dog again. Jeez. Can't catch a break, can you? Sorry, dude.
Keep in mind, the numbered doors will close automatically after 9 seconds. As long as the door is open, the dead won't function. You do well to remember. Lastly, how to remove the bracelets. Only 2 ways to do so. 1. You escape. 2. You die. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of the ship, or detects the wearer's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it'll shut off. There's no other way to remove the bracelet. If you attempt to force it or disable the detonator, the bomb will immediately explode.
This is all I can impart to you. Ouch, nephew on top of that? You really can't catch a break, dude. Sorry. I'm gonna give you a couple head pats. Jeez.
If used wisely, this information can eliminate those who might be a danger. For a time, you can control your fate. I wish you the best of luck. The snake pocketed the card once more. The message had been lengthy, but the meaning was clear. Verify a number out of red, and only you could pass through the door. Teams couldn't increase or decrease. The reds, deads, and bracelets enforce the rules, as judge, jury, executioner. In defiance of Zero's suggestions, both Santa and Seven put fingers down their throats, tried to gag. The rest stiffened. Some touched their stomachs. Some stared at their bracelets emptily. Jinpei gingerly touched his gut. A bomb inside his body? The thought of it made him queasy. His stomach felt hollow, his legs weak. Why had Zero designed such a ludicrous game? He looked at the others. I'm gonna ask one more time. Do any of you know anything about Zero? Silence. Each person wanting to hear what the others would say. I saw him. I saw Zero when I got grabbed. I didn't see his face, though. Son of a bitch was wearing some kind of gas mask. Hell, come on, guys, give me something. You know, like, surprise, something. Instead, it was Santa who gave the surprise. There was a moment of silence. Everyone spoke at once. Yeah, I saw him too.
Me too.
He was wearing a gas mask. As stories were sorted out, the truth became clear.
All of them had seen the same person. Abducted at home at midnight. The person claiming to be Zero had worn a mask. White smoke. They passed out. When they awoke, they were on the D deck, in a room with a 3-bunk bed. Only 7 stories lacked details.
Me? Yeah, well, mine was just like the rest of yours.
That was all he said. It occurred to Junpei at the time. It sounded strange, but he didn't press. There was something that struck him as even stranger.